Imagine traveling thousands of miles to a country that once adored you. Crowds screaming your name, people lined up for miles just to catch a glimpse, and then showing up to find almost nobody there. That is reportedly what happened when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle touched down in Australia in April 2026. And what unfolded over the next 4 days sent shockwaves across the internet, sparked a viral petition signed by tens of thousands of Australians, and raised a question that nobody in the Sussex camp seems to want to answer. Has the world finally moved on from Harry and Meghan? Stay with me because this story has layers, and not a single one of them is flattering for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Let's go back. Not too long ago, Harry and Meghan were arguably the most talked about couple on the planet. When they toured Australia in 2018 as working royals, the reception was nothing short of extraordinary. Thousands of Australians lined the streets. Crowd control had to be deployed outside the Sydney Opera House. People wept, screamed, reached out just to touch their hands during walkabouts. It was the kind of welcome that most celebrities could only dream of. Meghan, fresh into her royal role and visibly pregnant with Archie, was being compared to Princess Diana herself. Harry looked proud, happy, and completely at home. But that was then. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from their roles as senior working royals. They relocated to California, signed eye-watering deals with Netflix and Spotify, released a bombshell memoir, gave televised interviews that rocked the palace, and in doing so, burned bridges that some royal observers believe can never be fully rebuilt. The Netflix shows underperformed. The Spotify deal was not renewed. And one by one, the grand promises of their post-royal life seemed to fall quietly short. So when reports emerged that Harry and Meghan were planning a 4-day trip to Australia in April 2026, their first return since that triumphant 2018 tour, many people were watching very closely. Would the magic still be there? Would Australia still love them? The answer, based on what unfolded, appears to be a firm and rather public no. The couple landed in Melbourne on a commercial Qantas flight, a detail that some observers noted as a deliberate image choice, projecting relatability. They moved through Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney, attending a mix of charitable engagements and here is where eyebrows began to raise, decidedly commercial events. Harry gave the keynote address at something called the Inter-Edge Psychosocial Safety Summit. Tickets for that event reportedly ranged from nearly $1,000 to over $2,000 per seat. Meanwhile, Meghan headlined what was billed as a luxury women's wellness retreat, her best life event at an intercontinental hotel in Sydney, with ticket prices reported to be as high as $3,000. $3,000. Royal commentator Angela Levin and others wasted no time flagging what they saw as the true purpose of the tour. Expert Giselle Bastin, an associate professor and royal family specialist at Flinders University, put it bluntly, suggesting the couple was staging what she described as a quasi-royal tour as a way to monetize their royal status, something she called a desperate attempt, given what some observers described as their pressing need for income. Their spokesperson pushed back, insisting the visit was rooted in long-standing areas of work and focused on listening, learning, and supporting communities. But for many Australians, that explanation didn't land. Because before Harry and Meghan had even set foot on Australian soil, something remarkable had already happened. Over 45,000 Australians had signed a petition. Let that number sink in. 45,000 people, regular Australians, put their names to a document demanding that not a single cent of taxpayer money be used to fund security, logistics, or any government coordination for the couple's visit. The petition argued that since Harry and Meghan stepped down from royal duties in 2020, they no longer represent the crown. They are, in the eyes of the petition's signatories, private American-based business people and should be treated accordingly, especially during a time when Australians are facing serious cost of living pressures. Despite the couple's office insisting the trip was privately funded, it was later confirmed that, Australian police forces in New South Wales, and Victoria would be providing security. A detail that only poured more fuel on an already burning fire. And then came the Sydney Opera. House, for those who remember the 2018 tour, this moment carries a particular sting. 8 years ago, the crowds outside that iconic building were so large they required crowd control barriers. The energy was electric. It was one of the defining images of the entire tour. But in April 2026, videos circulating on social media told a very different story. Only a handful of people were seen outside the Opera House to greet them. And some online commenters, including an alleged eyewitness, claimed that several of those present weren't even there for Harry and Meghan at all. They were reportedly a tourist group already lined up for an Opera House tour. One post on X captured the mood of the internet perfectly. The user wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, 2018 Harry and Meghan tour. Crowds so big they needed crowd control. 2026 Harry and Meghan tour. Crowds so small they needed a search party. It went viral. Of course it did. And then there was the snub that many royal watchers found perhaps most symbolically crushing of all. Reports emerged that the Irwin family, one of Australia's most beloved dynasties, the family of the late Steve "Crocodile" Hunter Irwin, had reportedly kept their distance from the Sussexes during the tour. According to a source cited by New Idea magazine, the Irwins were described as being placed in a difficult position. Robert Irwin, 22-year-old son of Steve Irwin and now a prominent conservationist and television personality in his own right, reportedly declined to publicly associate with Harry and Meghan. The reason cited? The Irwins are described as staunch monarchists, deeply loyal to the royal family, and specifically to Prince William and King Charles. The insider reportedly said the Irwins meant no ill will towards the Sussexes, but at the end of the day, their loyalty to what is sometimes called the firm took precedence. It's worth noting that this account comes from unnamed sources, and the Irwin family has not made any public statement on the matter. But the story spread like wildfire online regardless, and the optics were undeniably damaging. To be publicly avoided by one of the most likable families in all of Australia, during your Australia tour? That is the kind of thing that stings. So why did all of this happen? Why has a couple who were once so deeply beloved find themselves facing rejection in one of the countries that loved them most? Some observers believe it comes down to authenticity. When Harry and Meghan were working royals, their platform was undeniable. They represented something bigger than themselves, an institution with centuries of history. People showed up not just for them, but for what they symbolized. Once they stepped away from that institution, some argue, the gravitational pull simply was not the same. And no amount of Netflix deals or luxury retreats or carefully managed Instagram posts can fully replicate it. Others point to what they see as a pattern of choices that have eroded public goodwill. The memoirs, the interviews, the perceived grievances aired so publicly against a family that many people, including many Australians, have deep affection for. Royal expert and commentator Neil Sean suggested in various media reports that the couple have tried and failed to reinvent themselves multiple times, as reality stars, as podcast hosts, as lifestyle brands, and that Australian audiences, like many global audiences, are growing weary of what one commentator called a cycle of rebranding, complaining and chasing relevance. Their spokesperson, again, disagrees. And to be fair, the couple did participate in genuinely charitable work during the tour, visiting the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, supporting Invictus Games veterans, attending a community rugby match. Not everything about the trip was commercially driven. But in the court of public opinion, perception often matters more than reality. And the perception, at least in the loudest corners of social media, was not kind. Harry and Meghan left Australia. They issued a statement reflecting on the visit, hitting all the expected notes about community, connection, and impact. But notably, according to reports, the statement did not address the lukewarm reception, the petition, or the reportedly abrupt nature of their departure. They posted warm photos on Instagram. They returned home to their children in California. and the world kept spinning. But here is the question I want to leave you with today, and I genuinely want to know what you think in the comments below. Is this just a rough patch for Harry and Meghan? A temporary dip in public sentiment that they can recover from with the right move, the right project, the right moment? Or is what happened in Australia a signal of something more permanent, that the window of opportunity they once had has quietly, irreversibly closed? Because there is something almost Shakespearean about it, isn't there? A prince who gave up a kingdom and is now discovering one empty street at a time exactly what he traded it for.